interact with a man, a Giriama person. So make sure you shake my hand before you leave. It will be. And I serve in the National Assembly as Deputy Leader of Majority. And I want to remind Orero that I'm his leader. Yes, I'm his leader because I am a leader of the National Assembly, and he sits in the National Assembly unless he has his own assembly. Yes, so I'm your leader, boss. And I want to just start by saying a few things. The issues of taxation in this country have taken center stage, and I'm very happy about that. We have never had a time in this country where taxation has been discussed like now. And I think that is a plus for citizen participation in governance. In the past, nobody knew what finance bill is. But when I went to the village, my grandmother asked me, finance bill, munapitisha kwa nini? I asked my grandmother, so what is finance bill? And somehow she knew one or two things about it. Meaning, therefore, citizen participation is at a higher level. And I want to thank the civil societies and those that make noise for making sure that Kenyans are aware about what taxation is about. Again, I want to go back a little bit to the times of Mwai Kibaki when he was president. He taught us that kulipa ushuru ni kufanya nini? Ni kujitegemea. And the success of Mwai Kibaki's government cannot be gainsaid, because he leveraged this country on the issues of tax. And by the time he was leaving office, I think we had reduced our debt burden. We were not borrowing much, and this country was running on its own revenues. And we did very well. And that's the time even things like CDF came in and did a lot of work in this country because the country had resources, revenues that were coming from its own source. And we made a lot of strides, very good positive strides, and our economy grew very, very well. But it did not grow very well on other people's monies, but we used what we have to get to where we were during Mwai Kibaki's time. Now, when you come to the other regimes, you know what happened, and that is the reason why we are here. But then, as I want to delve deep into the issues of taxation, I want to ask this question. Why do governments tax? Why do we tax? If you look at the history of taxation, even during the medieval levels, when a king set up his kingdom and took up an empire, the first thing he looked around is, so these people want water. How do I give them water? These people want roads. These people want schools. These people want universities. How do I ensure that these things are available for them? Then they will look around, and I think they first introduced something called a household tax. That this house is wealthy, they can contribute a little bit of their wealth so that the wealth of this family and that family put together will provide a school. If you go to the United States, you find a school system, the school district. Schools in the United States are not funded directly by government, especially the primary schools. They are funded by something called the school district. The school district is all businessmen. If you have set up a business in that area, you contribute a tax to run the school. Now, wealthier districts have better schools, and poor districts have poor schools. But when I was looking at some of the principles of taxation that you put in here, there was one thing called redistribution, equity or equitable distribution. But there was another word, accountable. Now I want us to look briefly at these words. Why do we talk about redistribution? And I think the president has said this. We need to support the less fortunate in society by ensuring that we take money from the wealthier and distribute it to the poor through service provision. Through service provision. If the poor person wants to break through the ranks, he needs to go to a good school. Who funds that good school? We have to tax to ensure there's a good school. That school takes the poorer kids through the school system, gives them a good education, and they go up there. What have we done? We have redistributed wealth. We have done a redistribution. When we come to the issues of equity, my small idea about equity, which the civil society has taught me, is that if someone is very tall and can pick a mango from a tree, how does the short person pick that mango from the tree? So unamwekea stool mbili tatu, afikie the same level as that other person. So how do we do that in a country situation? We're sure we don't take away what this other person has. If we don't help this young person by putting schools, he will never pick that. But if we help him to go up there, then he will get. That is equity, principles of equity. And the principle of accountability, and that is what I want to talk about, the principle of accountability. We collect a lot of taxes in this country, but the question is, where does the money go? Where does the money go? And the more we do not have accountability for the resources that we have, the more we tax people. I don't know whether you see that relationship. Yes, because if I have taxed and I've given the money to Orero and I've told him, tarmac this road, and the road is not tarmacked, what will happen next? I will tax more to ensure that I put in more money to tarmac a road which would have been tarmacked 3 years ago. If the work is done poorly, it means I'll have to look for more money to put on the same road. So I keep on tarmacking because there's no accountability. The greatest problem that we have in this country is accountability. Accountability in terms of tax. And this is what actually makes us tax people even more. But I am happy that civil societies are coming out. Don't just talk about stop taxation. Talk about accountability of the resources that are being taken from you. That way, we will reduce this tax. I know I was discussing with Diana there, and she was saying, why are you splitting NHIF? You know, there's a bill in Parliament today to split NHIF into 3 organizations. Why are we splitting it? Because NHIF is a giant organization. It gets a lot of money. But today, if you went with your NHIF card in hospital, you're still being told, no medicine, no money. Why? Because there's no accountability. Then we'll come back and say, because there's no money in NHIF, the best way is to do 2.7%, to give them more money. So taxation keeps on going up. The less accountable a system is, the higher the taxes will get. I don't know whether I'm understood by this. So what I would like civil society is also to focus on is accountability. When they give me money for CDF, how am I using it? If I don't use it better, the poverty will continue in my constituency, and government will say probably the money is not enough. So what will happen? We will tax more so that we can take care of the imbalance in development in the areas. So one of the things that I would like us to focus on is accountability. How accountable are we as a nation? The institutions that we have put in place. KERA, for example. You know, this in the fuel, I know fuel is very sensitive here, isn't it? Because of the taxes in fuel. But one of the things, there is the road maintenance levy. Where do you find the road maintenance levy? It is in petroleum, isn't it? So when you buy a liter of fuel, one of the taxes within some amount of money that you pay is road maintenance levy. So where does this money go? We take this money and give it to an organization called KERA, okay, and KURA, and KENHA. So they are there. Those 3 organizations actually exist because of the fuel levy. Yes, the fuel development levy. The money is there. Now, when KURA does not do the roads very well, what happens? We'll come back and say, pengine KURA haipati pesa ya kutosha. So what do? We increase. So when we increase, you have a problem buying fuel because the cost of fuel has gone up and everything else goes up. How do we hold KERA and KURA and KERA accountable so that we stop the fuel. I'll be very happy to one day say stop this the fuel levy for road maintenance so that we can reduce the amount of taxes. I don't know whether we understand. Why are we adding VAT on fuel? Because we're saying, we have a deficit here in terms of budget. There's a huge budget deficit. When there's a huge budget deficit, so what we'll do, we look at the thing that is mostly consumed is what? It's fuel. And if we put there 2% more, 1% more, we will get the money to plug in the gap. But probably the reason we don't have that is because we have an efficient system in KERA and KERA. They price roads very highly. A road that should cost 20 million is 40 million. And where did this money come? It came from you because you bought fuel. How accountable are we? The moment this country becomes more accountable, the moment the taxes in this country will come down. So what are we doing as civil societies about holding everybody to account? About holding everybody to account. And I think this is usually the main issue. That in development, if you go to developed countries, look at, I was reading the statistics of Norway and Sweden. They're the most highly taxed citizens in the world. But what are their services like? They're amazing. Because they have leveraged on tax collection to make sure that you don't spend a lot of money as an individual. Government spends and does everything for you. Because if in this country, taxes are as high as they are, but if you walked into a hospital, you don't have to spend your own money, you wouldn't complain. Because you're not spending your money. If you went into school, you don't have to pay anything because teachers are there, books are there, and everything there. You wouldn't complain. You will still even have disposable income to do other things, to have a drink and to socialize. But now we tax you heavily, heavily. But when you go to hospital, you are given a prescription, go to the chemist to buy drugs. I don't know whether you understand what I'm talking about. Yes. So if you go to school today, you'll find that in my schools in Kilifi, I have over half of the teachers that teach in my schools are employed by BOM. I don't know whether that thing happens here. So the parents have to pay money to pay teachers in a primary school, a public primary school. And yet, I am heavily taxed. So if you go to primary school, right now exams are starting, kila mwanafunzi anarudishwa nyumbani. Kwa nini anarudishwa nyumbani? To come and get fees. Then you have to establish something called a bursary fund. Why do we have I keep on asking myself this question. Why do we have a bursary fund if we have enough money why should I pay bursary for a day school? For a day school. And yet government says it pays 22,500 per student in a secondary school. Why should I give bursary to a student at a day school? Because the principal will sit there and say he has employed 10 BOM teachers. Those BOM teachers require what? Salary. Okay? There is something that they are doing, they are building a kitchen. So because of that, they load it on the parent. They're doing something, so the fees actually comes to around 17,000 a year. Now this student is sent away to go home, to go and look for fees. So if the parent doesn't have, he comes back and says he wants what? Wants bursary. Why? Why should we have a system where every student now who goes to school must have a bursary? Actually, right now in my constituency, every student who goes to school requires what? Bursary. But look at the budget for education. Look at the budget for education. The budget for education is very high. Actually, it should be sufficient to run our school systems. But then we have again to charge more. Now, the minister will say, I want more money. So when it comes to want more money, Budget and Appropriations Committee of Parliament will come and tell us, we require more money. So when we require more money, we go to the chairman of finance, Courier, and tell him, my friend, add taxes. So taxes are added. I think, and the president has said that the problem we have in this country in terms of why we always require more money is because of a very inefficient system in terms of accountability. So as we speak about taxes, I look forward to one day where I am heavily taxed, but I enjoy everything the government has promised to provide. I enjoy everything because it is there. I have paid my tax and I go to hospital, I find medicine. I have paid my taxes and I go to school and I find I don't have to pay school fees. I've paid my taxes and when I drive a car, it doesn't break its shock because the road is bad, because I have paid taxes. The Kenyans will be happy a lot in paying taxes because they get everything from government. I don't know whether you understand what I'm talking about.